Are we going to start? Okay, all right, welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. I just started recording, so we're going to get going here. Welcome to Detox Your Life. Since I have people in person here, you're mostly just going to see the side of my face on the camera, so I apologize for that. But thanks for coming out, everybody, on this really cold, my hands are still cold, Michigan, January evening. Tonight, we're going to be talking about detoxification. I will just talk a little bit about my background and myself, since I have a couple of you here that are a little bit newer to me and some people online as well. My name is Elizabeth Pemberton. I am a certified holistic and wellness coach. I also have certifications in a handful of other things, nutrition, sports nutrition, natural remedies, essential oils, things like that. But essentially, what I do, my practice is based on what I have done over the course of my life to try to heal myself. So I was a teenager who suffered from hormone imbalance, depression, anxiety, and a lot of other weird things that at that time in the 90s, nobody really even knew what those were. I just knew that something wasn't right within me. And so starting in my 20s, I kind of just started on this journey to try to figure out what was going on with my health, and why I was feeling this way. I could see that other people didn't seem to have all of these problems. And so I started off first learning a lot about nutrition and dove into that and learned when I ate better, I felt better, not the kind of junk food and things that I ate a lot when I was really young. From then I went on to start learning about deep nutritional foods like fermented foods and the kind of nutrition that our ancestors used to eat. After that, I learned about supplements, homeopathy, essential oils. I went on to become a certified coach, so I learned more about coaching techniques and practices, law of attraction, and probably like 100 different other things. But what all of those things have come to teach me, I have also felt called to help other people with and teach those things to other people if they're called to work with me. Detox is one of the more recent things that I've gotten into just in the past couple of years. And my reason personally for getting into that and learning about that is because I had a mouthful of mercury fillings starting from when I was a child. And I knew, I read a book about holistic dentistry probably like in my late 30s, and I just knew this is a big thing that's wrong with me. I have heavy metal toxicity poisoning my body, dripping in through my mouth, right by my brain, into my digestive tract all day, every day. And I knew I had to get them out. So I found a dentist. I was able to work on getting those out over time, but it took me a long time to do that. And so throughout that process, I was looking for something that would help me not only, I already had most of my fillings out, but I wanted to detox the metals that I knew were built up in my system. And so that took me on this path to a lot of the things that we're going to talk about here tonight. I will share some supplements and things with you, but also because this is about detoxing your life, not just about your physical body. We will talk about both of those things here. I will ask that everybody holds your questions until the end. I'll have plenty of Q&A at the end. If anybody needs paper, let me know. I'll just actually put this here. If anybody needs to jot down some questions, grab a piece of paper, help yourself. Only because if I get off track, then I get confused and I'll forget what I'm supposed to say. So it's a purely selfish reason for wanting to hold questions until the end. So toxicity comes in many forms. We have mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical toxicity. And as I have in the slides, here's just a few examples. Stress is a form of a mental toxicity. Unhealthy relationships might be a form of emotional toxicity. A spiritual toxicity could look like disconnection or fear, just living in those energies all the time. And then a physical toxicity might manifest as something like disease. You might see that with poor nutrition. So to detox yourself from mental toxicity, one way is to create a morning routine. Sometimes when we get in that kind of rut of just doing the same thing day after day, a morning routine can be a really good way to start keeping promises to yourself and to start giving yourself little clues and little bits and pieces along the way to set up yourself to create a life that you want. It doesn't have to be complex. Even just 5 minutes of keeping that promise to yourself every day can be a really good way to start. When I first started my morning routine, I was probably just doing 5 or 10 minutes. And because one of the ways just mentally that we can get ourselves to do something is like, it's only 5 minutes, right? You can make yourself do something for even 5 minutes. Even if you hate running, you can run for 5 minutes if you really have to, right? Most people can. But that can have a major impact. Trying to incorporate at least 2 things and up to 4 things every day. Obviously at 5 minutes, you probably can only do 1 thing. But physical activity, spiritual practice, meditation, and or some type of mental enrichment can also be other things that you can add to your morning routine. Mental enrichment, by that, for me, that looks like reading some kind of a spiritual book, or I love all things metaphysical and natural health. So a lot of times my books are kind of geared towards that. They're often books that I end up bringing into my practice. Taking and making time for yourself. This is hard for a lot of us, especially if we're the kind of people that like to give to other people and do things for other people all the time. We get into this pattern of not doing things for ourselves. And so part of my job is to help teach and help you remember how to do those things for yourself. It doesn't have to be hours and hours every day. It doesn't mean you have to go to the spa every day, but it does mean that even just little, 1 bit at a time, 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, that you can start giving those things back to yourself just in little moments of time. 15 to 30 minutes of time for yourself is really probably a standard average time. That's probably enough for most of us to feel like we're doing a good job with that. More if you can. Going outdoors every day. This is so important, especially here in Michigan where we are right now. It's super cold. One of the beautiful people here actually walked to class, even though it's probably 5 degrees up right now.
Every day.
She walks every day. She's really good about that. It's harder for me. I have to really force myself to do that. But there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothing. So if you can't force yourself to get outside every day, invest in a really warm coat, snow pants, warm boots, whatever it takes to get yourself out. One of the reasons for that is just for the exercise, but a really important reason is for the sunlight. You know, how many of us are inside all day long? We stare at a screen. You know, we're under these LED lights that are not really good for us. We have this artificial light bombarding our eyes, coming into our brain all day long. And getting out in sunlight every day is really important. Really, we're meant to be outside most of the time. That's how our ancestors lived their lives, right? They were farmers. They were outside all day. And we've devolved away from that so far that now some of us don't go outside at all. But if you can, try to get outside at least for 30 minutes every day, even if the weather's bad. There's no substitute for that. And even if, you know, I hear some people say, but it's cloudy, you know, what good is it doing me? It's still doing you good. Those rays that come through the clouds are still the rays of the sun. It's still beneficial. And quite often, at least here where we are, it is less cloudy often in the morning and in the evening. So first thing in the morning can be a really good time to get outside before those Michigan clouds roll in. Another way that you can help incorporate balance and detoxifying your life is by incorporating some kind of meditation or praying, ideally both. I once heard the difference between meditation and praying, called them in praying you are asking and meditation you are receiving. So both are beneficial, both are powerful, both are good spiritual practices. Whatever your belief, it doesn't matter. You don't have to pray to any particular person or entity or being or whatever, but just bringing some of that spiritual practice into your life every day is very beneficial. As I said, this can be as traditional or as non-traditional as you like. Creating your own form of spirituality is definitely an option if that's something that you're called to do, if that's something that, you know, maybe what you grew up with or what you were taught doesn't resonate with you anymore, then finding something else. There's nothing wrong with that. But I definitely recommend spending time connecting with something that's greater than yourself, something that's beyond yourself every day. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in just day to day and, you know, the job and the life and the family and all of the things that we have to do that we forget to do that. But when we separate ourselves from that, it really does make us feel more separate, right? We're meant to be the human race. We're meant to be all connected on a spiritual level together. And by allowing yourself this time to reconnect with this aspect of yourself, of this aspect that's greater than yourself, brings a lot of really beneficial clarity and detoxification to the spiritual life. Detoxing from emotional and spiritual toxicity. Regularly connecting with people who fill you up. So number one, avoiding toxic people. We all have had a toxic person in our lives, I'm sure. I know this has been a really interesting journey for me as a person. I see some looks exchanged here live. They can be hard to get away from, right? You know, when you're working on yourself, you're expanding, you're growing, and then you see this person and they just like, you just leave that interaction feeling worse than when you were with them. That's the key. That's your clue. When you leave that interaction, you feel worse than you did before you saw them. That's maybe a key that you're not vibing with them anymore. But it's hard to let that go. It's hard to let that go. But I will say, as you work on yourself and increasing your vibration and letting yourself feel better and better by doing work, inner work, spiritual work, all of these things that we're talking about tonight, you'll run into them less and less. I used to have this funny little, it was almost like a mental game I played with myself years ago. And I had just moved here to where I live now, which was like 15 years ago. And every once in a while, you know, you just meet someone that you just like, you know, they're not bad people. You just don't vibe with them. I would see those people every time I went to Kroger. And for those of you that live here, you know, for those of you that don't, like, this is a small place and you tend to see people over and over again. But really, there's enough people that there's no reason I would have to run into that same person every time I went to the store. And yet I would. So now I know that that was my vibration. That was my energy of like, oh, I don't really like this person. I don't really want to see them. But based on my attention to that, my focus on that, which is where I was at the time, I would see them all the time, not even just at Kroger, at the hardware store, at the drugstore, wherever I went, I would run into the same person, you know? So part of this is just that awareness. Part of it is raising yourself up, your vibration up through a lot of these practices so that that doesn't happen anymore. I never see that person anymore, by the way, never. They still live here, never see them. As you raise your vibration, as you increase your connection, some of these relationships might naturally fall away. That's the easy way. Sometimes it's not so easy, and sometimes you need to make a step. But that's, of course, a very personal journey and a choice that you would have to make on your own. But if someone is bringing you down in a serious way, you know, it may be time to just cut those ties and just let that relationship go. Just know that that's normal. I think sometimes we think like you have a friend, you have to have a friend forever. But that's not necessarily true. That's really not how we work, you know, as human beings. Relationships are meant to ebb and flow and evolve. For me personally, my husband was in the Air Force when we first got married. When I was pretty young, I was 20 when we got married. And so we moved every 2 or 3 years. So it was just like this great reset. Now, some people I really miss, but being a young and inexperienced friend maker, just like anybody who wanted to be my friend, I was their friend instantly. I'd jump into the relationship. Especially with military families, they make friends really fast. And then I would find that I'm like, oh, like they're actually a really toxic person. I had 2 friends, 2 bases in a row that were cheating on their spouses, like my closest friend. No judgment there around any of that, but I started to ask myself, why am I attracting these people who are in crisis, who are always needing help and needing rescuing and needing these kind of things? Partly because I do like to help people, but there was something in me that was attracting that as well. So because we were in the military, I just had this great, you know, chance to reset. But since I've lived here for almost 15 years now, it's been a different learning experience for me, just as an individual growing, not having this physical transfer from state to state or country to country to kind of do the work for me. I had to really dig in and realize sometimes there is a relationship that I kind of just had to let that go because it wasn't serving me anymore. It wasn't serving the other person anymore either. And there's nothing wrong with that. It may sound obvious, but seeking out other people whose company leaves you feeling better. This is key. I think we don't always think about this. We just kind of have our habits. Maybe we see the same people at the same times, you know, for the same activities. But if you don't leave that interaction, as I mentioned, feeling better, maybe that's not the best interaction for you to be having. But maybe there's that one person who every time you see them, they fill you up and you feel really good and you feel really lighthearted, but it's not in your pattern. So I'm here to tell you, like, disrupt your pattern sometimes. You know, call that person that you don't always think about calling that makes you feel really good. that, you know, you run into them in the grocery store and you just feel that sense of uplifted and that sense of connection. That's the universe giving you a clue. Like, here's this person, here's this connection. This might work and make you feel better. So I encourage you to reach out to those people, even if it feels a little uncomfortable or scary sometimes. You know, we can be in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s and still make good friends. There's nothing wrong with that. And also, again, kind of similarly to what we've been saying, be aware of those people in your life who drain your energy. When you're leaving that, not feeling good, that means something's telling you something. The universe is giving you a clue. This is a huge one for a lot of my clients, and sometimes also, being totally honest, for me as well. Social media is pretty toxic. I have to be on it for my work because this is how I reach probably half of my clients find me on social media, maybe even more like 75%. So I have to be on there. But for me, my work is go on there for work and don't just scroll. I can't do that. I can't let myself do that. The comparison game is not good for anybody. It's not beneficial for us to look at what other people are doing and compare our lives to that. If you have to set limits on your devices, please do that. Welcome. Hi. A lot of the newer devices now have just really easy ways. You can set a screen time limit. I can do that for my kids. It turns off at a certain time. It turns off after a certain number of hours or whatever. We can use that for ourselves as adults if we have trouble setting those limits. I also will sometimes give myself another task to complete at times that I would normally scroll or click through social media. So my latest thing that I've been doing is I'm in school right now too to become a naturopath and an herbal master. And so now what I do in that time that I would have spent 30 minutes on Facebook in the morning, I'm studying. I'm actually doing something beneficial, something to help me get done with my degree faster, which is going to be a really good thing. And then I leave that time in my day feeling like I've accomplished something instead of feeling drained. So maybe there's something in your life that you could do, even just like maybe planning your meals for the week you could do, or, setting an intention to call a friend or reach out to a person or make some kind of connection. Reading, doing a hobby, cooking, organizing, I don't know, anything like that. Sure, a lot of you have even better ideas. Spending quality time alone daily is important. Now, I know some of us are more inclined to cultivate this than others. Personally, I'm an introvert. I love being alone. I've never lived alone, but I really think I'd be really good at it if I had the chance. Not that I'm saying I want that, but I understand that that's not true for everybody. I enjoy that. A lot of people really need that interaction and that time with other people. So my challenge for you is to, if you crave that interaction, ask yourself why. Why do you need to be around other people? Why do you need that stimulation? Why do you need someone else in your space, in your house, in your room, or wherever that is? If you're like me and you crave alone time, ask yourself why. Why do I need that? What in my life is going on that's causing me to feel like I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough time to myself, or I don't have enough moments in my life to really focus on what I need, and then make adjustments based on that. That's kind of how I look at life, and that's a lot of times how I look at coaching with clients as well, helping to find that extra perspective, that outside. So often we can do that by asking some really poignant questions, some really specific questions. I'm feeling this way. Ask yourself why. A journal can be a really good tool for this. Just jotting down. You don't have to write 5 pages. Just jotting down a few bullet points in them. Like, I'm feeling really anxious right now. Nobody's in the house. I'm alone. I really want some company. Well, why am I feeling this way? Is this because I'm used to having someone here at this time? Is this because, something maybe when I was a child, it's triggering a memory of something that happened before, so on and so forth. You get the idea. Consider researching being introverted versus being extroverted if you haven't already. Most people kind of have an idea. Is there anybody here that doesn't know if they're an introvert or an extrovert? Everybody knows, yeah. Anybody online? Do you know if you've been an introvert or an extrovert? And it's an interesting thing to learn about and dig into a little bit more. Another tool that I really love is called the Enneagram. If you're interested in learning like what makes you do the things that you do, why you do the things you do, not just your behaviors outwardly, but what motivation does that come from? I love the Enneagram. It's a 9-type system. And some people are harder to type than others. Some people have a harder time getting into that. It doesn't really vibe with everybody necessarily, but most of my clients find it interesting. I'm actually going to teach a free class on that coming up in March. So it'll be set up just like tonight. You can come in person or Zoom in online, and it'll just be kind of a basic overview and how the system works. Personally and professionally, it's been one of the most useful tools that I have ever come across. It's changed my parenting. It's changed my marriage. It's changed my friendships. It's helped me understand people on a deeper level. It's helped me understand myself on a much deeper level, why I do the things that I do. And I highly recommend it. If this kind of rings your bell, a good place to start is the EnneagramInstitute.com. It's a website. They have tons of free information on there. It's basically like a book on the website if you want to read through everything they have. I think they have a couple quizzes too. I will caution you just mildly against the quizzes. So unlike personality typing systems like the Myers-Briggs or other things, the quizzes that are really accurate, the Enneagram quizzes tend to be inaccurate. And part of that is because specific behaviors that people express can be from vastly different motivation. And when a quiz is often based on a behavior or a thought pattern. And so when you're saying like, oh, I do this all the time in the quiz, it can often type you as the wrong type. So take it with a grain of salt if you take the quiz. Especially this quiz on this website, the Enneagram Institute, they tend to type a lot of people as 6s. So if you come up as a 6, just be wary. I don't think there's as many 6s as the Enneagram Institute thinks that there are. But it's fascinating. It's a fascinating field of study. I've been studying it for about 5 years now, and I feel like I don't know, not even halfway through. It's really fascinating, very deep and intricate. Reading books that make you feel happy or joyful or fulfilled. Of course, reading books on paper is more restful than reading on a screen. If you do read on a screen, I do that sometimes as well. Try to find the dark setting on your phone or your tablet or whatever you're using where the background is dark and the text is light. That's just less blue light that's going into your eyes. So yeah, that's key. But if you can read a book with a lamp instead of having a screen, that's better for you. That'll help your melatonin production to amp up at the end of the day. It'll help you fall asleep faster. Even looking at a dark screen, but if it's still a screen, there's still blue light coming into your eyes. And so if you struggle falling asleep, especially, that might be the culprit. So, but also the topic is important. So what topics do you really enjoy? For this, you know, when we're talking about fulfillment and bringing more joy into your life and getting rid of the toxic things, this maybe isn't the time for a self-help book, as much as I love those. But what can you read that really you love? What's that topic that you haven't studied in so many years because you've been so busy with other things? What's that author or that genre that maybe some people think is a little bit silly, but it just makes you feel really, really good inside? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Things that get you feeling mentally, emotionally, and spiritually more in tune, more in the flow. And that means by bringing in joy. Read those things. Also, be aware of any manipulation and learn to trust your instincts. So many of us, especially today, we're really separated from our inner guidance. And this is a whole kind of class by itself, so I can't get into all the reasons why. We're disconnected from nature. Often we're disconnected spiritually, disconnected from other people physically because we're on a screen all day or whatever that looks like for you. When we're separated from that, we also end up being separated from our inner guidance. So that, you know, we might think, oh, the book says I'm supposed to do it this way, or this teacher or this guru or this religious leader says I need to do this way. But sometimes we need to check in with ourselves, like what's right for us. You know, I've always really admired those heroes in literature that do the right thing even when everybody else is doing the thing, the status quo. You know, that person that has that conviction and can stand up for themselves. That's a really powerful quality, and I think something that a lot of us have gotten away from. So it's just, I just kind of wanted to bring that up. if you want to connect with your inner guidance a little bit more, the easiest way to start doing that is just asking in your prayer and your meditation, asking for signs, maybe a little game that I play with myself and kind of my intuition and my guidance. It's the license plate game. Does anybody play that? I picked out a couple numbers and letter sequences that mean something to me personally. And, you know, they're not super common, but what I found that when I focus on them for long enough when I'm driving, it's like a little game that I play. And I get lighthearted and kind of fun about it. It's not this really heavy thing. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if I'll see these numbers today. And I drive and I think about something else. And inevitably a car will like almost cut me off. Like they're right in front of me. And my first instinct is like, why did they do that? And then I realize they have that number or that letter sequence on the license plate. And so then I take that, for me, I kind of think of it as my angels or my guides, kind of giving me just a little fun thing to play with. And some people may, you know, if you have something you really love, like butterflies or certain birds. I have a lot of clients who feel spiritually connected with cardinals, for example, that they know that their cardinal is their mother. You know, when a cardinal shows up, that they're being visited by their mother, little things like that. Playing those little kinds of, you know, I'm calling it a game, but it's really more than that. It's more than a game, but it's a way to connect with your spirituality and your intuition in kind of a low risk way. You know, you don't see a cardinal for 2 weeks. You're not going to really think about that. It's not going to hurt your feelings. But if you do see one, it might lift you up and help you feel a little bit, you know, more connected and more in the flow with things spiritually. So asking for signs, watching for signs, and for personalized guidance in this area, of course, I can help you. This is something that I do a lot of and I've worked a lot with over the years. Another way to detox yourself is to quit watching the programming, the news. They call it programming for a reason. Television programming. What are you letting into your brain, into your body, into your mind, into your energy field? You're being programmed. You're thinking the thoughts and the things that someone else wants you to think. Are those the things that you want to think? When you turn off the news, do you feel good and happy and uplifted and like, oh, the world is a wonderful place? Or do you find that they have pulled the one bad thing out of 5 million really good things and they've showed you that one good thing? What's the purpose of that? Just something to think about. What information and delivery systems of information are you giving your brain access to on a daily basis? This goes back to social media, again, with the news, even movies and television shows. Just pay attention. I used to be able to watch movies. I can't watch movies anymore. I try. My daughter want to watch a movie with me, and unless it's really, really happy and there's really nothing bad that happens, I can't watch it because I feel the energy and the intention behind that movie. Older movies are easier than newer ones, but even Disney movies as a little girl, I didn't like them because why did Bambi's mom have to die? You know, I mean, my mom had to take me out of the theater when I was 5 at Bambi because I was bawling, inconsolable, never could watch that movie again. Same with Dumbo. Why do they have to make us feel so bad to make us feel good again? That's my question. Why can't they just make us feel good? Why can't the movies just be all happy? Why do we need that drama? Something in us kind of craves that, right? There's something in us that's looking for that extreme and that change in emotion, that shift. But I'm just bringing that to your attention. And encouraging you to take notice after you watch that show or after you go on that social media account or you interact with that program or that movie. How do you feel? Take note. Don't just let that affect you and then go through your day with that same vibration energy, but be conscious of that. Be conscious of what you're letting in and how it makes you feel. Another thing you can do to detoxify spiritually and emotionally is to work with a practitioner to help release emotions that are trapped and heal trauma. This is something that I do. There's also a lot of other amazing practitioners around here that do similar things. The emotions that are trapped in our body are a type of toxicity. If we can't release them, if we can't let them go, they will cause us in time, possibly pain, possibly disease, even a more likelihood of becoming injured at those points because it's in our energy field as well as our physical body. And so energy work and emotion release can help to release the things that are trapped there that are blocking the flow of energy in your body, because we are all energy beings. We all have energy flow in our bodies, in our energy fields going through. Sometimes you can even carry trauma that isn't yours. This was a really interesting thing for me to learn, that sometimes stuff that I have that comes up for me that I'm struggling with isn't even mine. It could be my mother's or my grandmother's. I mean, if you think about it, a part of you has been inside your grandmother, because your mother was born with all of her eggs and your mother was inside your grandmother. So there is a part of you that was actually inside your grandmother. So if your grandmother experienced trauma when she was carrying your mother, there is something of that that is still within you. And we see that, we call that, you know, like the family curse. Have you heard of that? Have you ever known a family? Everybody has this emotional issue, or everybody has this physical disease, or everybody gets divorced, or everybody has a bad marriage, or everybody, whatever that might be. This isn't necessarily just generational curses. This is generational emotional trauma. So this is something that can also be released. It's pretty powerful. I was going to tell the story about this mouse generational trauma experiment. So you could look this up online if you wanted to find this. I don't remember the name of the study or who did this, but I read this study a while back, and it talked about these scientists were in a laboratory and they were researching trauma on mice. And so they gave the mouse a treat, rang a bell, and gave a shock at the same time. And over time, they would measure the mouse response, you know, the trauma response to this. And over time, they quit giving the shock, but rang the bell, and the mouse would exhibit the same response when they rang the bell, even when they didn't get the shock, because they were used to associating the shock with the bell, right? Then they took the grandchildren of those mice and they repeated the same experiment, just with the bell, without the shock. And they found that ringing the bell in the grandchildren of the mice who had participated in the original experiment elicited the same response. The grandchildren of those mice, when they heard that sound or buzz or bell or whatever it was, had the same response, physical response, and energetic response as their grandparents did. And then they said, well, maybe it's because we're in the same, you know, room. So they took another additionally removed generation of mice and went to the other side of the laboratory in a different space and repeated the same experiment over there and had the same results. So this is a really interesting, you know, more tangible way for us to realize that we do carry these things. I know personally I've released a lot of trauma, and I'm, you know, pretty spiritual, and I meditate a lot, and I've had some really interesting experiences where I've been deep in meditation, and I've had experiences of knowing that I'm releasing through that work, not only what's happened with me, but what's happened with my mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother on my mother's side. There's been this line of trauma that I felt within my own body, and sometimes it's just those things like, why do I feel this way? Why does this bother me? Why am I having this reaction? There's nothing in my life that has been there to teach me that I should have this, and yet I have. And so I've been able to trace that back to generational trauma. So on to physical toxicity. We often have a lot of physical toxicity. We literally are what we eat, and what do we eat? You know, most of you in this room are really healthy and do really well. But a lot of people out there aren't, right? A lot of people just going out and about in the world. We see a lot of really sick people. It's really sad. But we are what we eat. What we put in our bodies is what makes up our cells. Your food is your fuel to create your actual physical structure. So I want you to keep in mind, where was my food grown? How was my food prepared? If we're eating conventionally grown foods that are sprayed with toxic pesticides and herbicides and fungicides, and they're prepared in a restaurant by someone who just took a bunch of drugs and got drunk before they came to work, what's the energy in your food? If you're eating at McDonald's and the food was frozen, processed at a factory, trucked or all over the place, frozen again, and all of this stuff, you're getting calories. Sure, you're getting calories for your body, but what kind of actual vibration, what energy does that food have when you're putting that into your body? This is why most cultures have their tradition of some type of praying over their food before they eat it, because the praying actually restructures the energy in that food. So even if that food was maybe not as nutritious to begin with, let's say it's a cookie and it's not organic, but if we pray over that food or send energy or conscious intention to that food, it changes the vibration of that food and it will actually affect us differently. Probably some of you know someone who eats junk all the time, but is healthy. Everybody knows someone like that, right? That could be partly because of their intention and the energy around that food. Maybe it'll catch up with them later, maybe not. But our intention and our vibration and our energy have a really powerful imprint on that. So this is why eating M&Ms and saying these are toxic, these are poison, I shouldn't be eating these M&Ms, has a much worse effect on our body than if we look at this M&M and say, this is delicious, I love this, it's beautiful, it's such a pretty color, I'm going to eat this and enjoy this. And if you can really believe that, that's different. Energy matters with food. It's a lot more than calories, a lot more important than calories in and calories out. To help detoxify physically, drinking lots of filtered or structured or spring water, those are the top types of water to drink, and eliminate sugary drinks. Hydration is important, but the type of hydration that you're getting is also very important. So at a minimum, just consider filtering your water, whatever type, the highest type of quality filter that you can afford, the best you can do. Every step is better than nothing. So if you're drinking tap water and all you can do is a charcoal filter, you're eliminating something out of that water, right? That's better than just drinking the tap water. I would recommend really eliminating bottled water. I mean, we'll sometimes drink it on vacation, but bottled water has lots of toxic chemicals in it. Usually it is heavily fluoridated and chlorinated. And also it's got plastic residue in it as well that just comes from the nature of it being in the bottle. And probably many of you have seen these exposés that have come out. It's often just tap water. Some companies just buy tap water from this certain municipality and they bottle the water and they sell this bottled water. So you might as well just, at the minimum, get your reusable bottle and a glass, ideally, or stainless steel bottle, and just put your water in there. Spring water or structured water is best. Again, structured water, we were kind of talking about the energy of food and like praying over our food or sending intention or energy to our food. Structured water is basically having water that has energy or intention in it. It's structuring the actual water and taking that structured water into our bodies changes our vibration as well. And it helps us feel better. It helps our bodies absorb the water more easily. If this is something that's interesting to you, there's a really amazing book by a man called Dr. Thomas Cowan, and he wrote the book Cancer and the Biology of Water. It's excellent. He's I think really gifted writer and researcher. Sugary drinks, of course, are empty calories, and they also may contain other chemicals and additives. One of the things to keep in mind about drinks, even if they're not sugary, but drinks in cans or bottles, if you're drinking the same thing all the time, those cans or those bottles are in a factory, right? The factory has to sanitize the lines of their tubing. It has to sanitize the can before it puts the drink in it. Do they rinse it? Do they not rinse it? I don't know. Do you know what's in that? What residues are in that? So, I mean, those kind of things are fine to have once in a while. But I recommend really just that filtered, structured spring water should be your main water, whether you make coffee out of it, organic coffee or herbal tea or whatever you like. But try to make that the basis of your hydration. Having those canned or bottled drinks once in a while is fine, but you're taking in, particularly if you drink the same brands all the time, you're getting those buildup of toxins cumulatively in your body as you're drinking those same things. So at the very least, mix it up if you're someone that likes bottled or packaged beverages. Diet soda is even worse, and it's highly toxic. So hopefully nobody drinks diet soda. If you do, there's a documentary called Sweet Misery that helped me learn a lot about aspartame and what it does to our bodies and the problems that it causes with our health. I'm pretty picky about what my kids are allowed to have. They're teenagers now, so I don't have as much control, but we do have a hard rule about aspartame. That is the one thing. Can they have junk food sometimes? Yes. Can they eat fast food sometimes? Yes. Once in a while. Everything in moderation is okay, but aspartame is my hard no. Absolutely no gum. I had a fight with this at the middle school a few years ago. All they had was aspartame gum in there. There was nothing with even just sugar sweetened. They wouldn't sell it, and I tried to get it's naturally sweetened gum, and they wouldn't even carry it. So every day I'm selling, when I would volunteer there, I'm selling these packets of aspartame gum, and it just made me sick to my stomach. Especially for children. Another thing you can do to detoxify your body is to remove root canals and, of course, any metal or mercury fillings that you might have in your mouth. Root canals are particularly toxic. It's the only instance in modern medicine where we deliberately leave dead tissue in the body. If you think about that, it's interesting, right? Why would we do that? Why do we do that? I have some ideas, but I'm not going to get into it here. Metal fillings are a particularly archaic practice. And as I mentioned in the beginning, a source of mercury just being dripped into your body all the time. And if you took one average size metal filling and dropped it into a pristine mountain lake, that would be enough to contaminate the lake. That's how toxic those fillings are. And some of us have multiple of these in our mouth. So what's your body doing all the time? Detoxifying that, getting rid of that, or storing that. I know for me personally, one thing that I noticed when I got all of my metal fillings removed was that the perpetual, just mild lymph node swelling that I always had, I would just always have a little bit of irritation, just a little bit. You know, if I would start to get sick, I would notice it there first. I would feel that. I never have that anymore since I've been able to detoxify from my mercury fillings. And I know that was just my body's way of trying to get it out all the time, and it was congested. Stopping snacking and maybe looking at intermittent fasting is another way to help your body detoxify. And when you eat is almost as important as what you eat. Our bodies naturally go through a detox process every single night when we go to sleep. It goes through different organs, resetting, detoxifying, preparing for the next day. Now, when we go to bed with a belly full of food, I was just talking to my son about this today, who loves to eat at night. I mean, he's an athlete, so he can handle it, but still it's not the best practice. And I was telling him how your body is diverting all of that energy that it wants to use for resetting and cleansing your organs and restructuring your organs, and it's using it to digest the food instead. Maybe not all of it, but a good portion of it. So you're getting a lot less of really of that true detoxification and deep rest that your body is craving because it's working on digesting that food. So at the very least, stop eating a few hours before bed, at the very least. You know, we have this 3 meals a day kind of structure that we're sort of taught. You know, you eat breakfast, you eat lunch, and you eat dinner. And we don't really have to do that. No, it's kind of like tradition. Maybe it's what we're doing, but if that doesn't work for you, consider changing that. You know, I have a lot of people when I bring this up say, oh, but we eat dinner together at night. It's our family time. And that's fine. So maybe you can still sit together, but do you all have to eat at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, which is maybe the earliest time that everybody can get together? Try thinking outside the box and reimagining how you do things. Just because we've always done it that way isn't necessarily a reason to keep doing it that way. Going to bed at the same time every night is key. Your body likes routine. It just does. Our physical bodies like routine. I know it's getting really cold in here. Tracy, there's the thermostat right there. There's a little red. If you want to turn it up a little bit. It's freezing too. And then I talked about the organs. Sauna is a really good way to detox the body physically. Heat helps the body to burn away the toxins. A traditional sauna is great, and near infrared is also really, really good. The way it heats the body is particularly beneficial. You can get a near infrared lamp for $100 on Amazon, I think. I mean, they're really inexpensive. It's a great way to get some light in your body, especially this time of year, at least here where we are right now in Michigan, where there's not a lot of sunlight. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah. That's awesome. Moving your body daily is important for detoxification. The lymphatic system requires physical movement to function. It has to. This is one of the reasons why you see people who are bedridden, perhaps in a nursing home or with a long illness. One of the reasons why they get sicker and sicker and sicker is because their lymph system isn't moving. That fluid is stagnant in the body. We need to move. Even if this is just a walk or some gentle stretching, move your body every single day. Same as a couch potato, someone that just sits on the couch all the time and doesn't really do anything. They're not moving their body. Exercise doesn't have to be extreme. Any movement counts, just gentle stretching, like I said, or a walk. But also key is to find something that you actually enjoy doing. I used to be someone who said, I just hate all exercise. I was a big book reader as a kid. I didn't play any sports. I didn't really like to go outside. I read a lot. I would maybe go outside and play with the cats. I had chores and stuff, so I got outside every day. But I didn't move that much, and I didn't think that I liked exercise. But honestly, as a kid, I maybe was stubborn. I didn't take the time to really try to find anything. Now, as an adult, now I know intellectually that I have to move my body, so I've been able to find things that I really enjoy. For most of, it's different than most of my friends. Most of my friends like to play sports, they play tennis, or they play, team sports, and that's just never been my thing. So I thought I didn't like exercise. It turns out I just don't like sports. So there's a lot of ways to exercise that don't include playing sports. And dry brushing is a great practice. It's inexpensive, it's easy to do, it stimulates lymphatic flow. Additionally, even in addition to moving, it's a great way. You just get a dry bristle brush. You can find one for probably $10 at Target or Home Goods or something like that. And the process is to begin at the feet, working towards the heart with short, light strokes. And then once you get to the heart, then you can go from the top down, even the face if you can, the neck, the throat, arms, hands, and always brushing towards the heart. And this helps to increase lymphatic flow in the body. This isn't quite the same as a wet scrub in the shower. If you use your scrub in the shower, it's not the same as that. The dry brushing has to be on dry skin. Obviously, it's called dry brushing. But then you do want to take a shower right after that to release the dead skin that you just moved up. And a cold shower also will help with that. They work hand in hand really well. For additional support in detoxification, consider adding in essential oils, various supplements, homeopathy, and herbs. This is something that I help a lot of people with if you have questions about that. There's a lot of really holistic and natural things that we can do to help our bodies detoxify. And then we're going to talk about heavy metals. We have a lot of heavy metals in our environment. A heavy metal means is a metal that is not essential for life. They're not supposed to be in our bodies. They poison the body. The body often isolates and pulls these away whenever possible. If you know anybody who is quite overweight that doesn't know why, they eat healthy, they exercise, they do all of the right things, but they just can't drop the weight, this is often a sign of toxicity. And this is because the body wants to pull things away from the organs if the organs can't detoxify. So let's say your liver is sluggish, you've got mercury fillings, and your body is constantly trying to rid yourself of that, but it can't because the liver isn't working properly. Maybe you're not having enough enzymes or bile produced. Maybe your digestion is off, all of these things. So the body will sequester the heavy metals and put them into the fatty tissue. It's one of the easier places for the body to do that. And so often if you're seeing people that are that fit that bill, like basically they seem healthy, but they can't get rid of that, maybe mention to them to look at detoxifying from heavy metals. Heavy metals also feed parasites in the sense that heavy metals are found in the physical bodies of parasites in our bodies. So in a way, it's helpful because they will pull those heavy metals away from our liver, our kidneys, or other organs, our heart, our brain. But also they're constantly being recirculated in our body. We don't want those in there. Often by detoxifying heavy metals, we're also detoxifying parasites as well. So it's a really fairly gentle way of reducing your parasite burden as well. And heavy metals and parasites are more common than most realize. Heavy metals are found in commercially grown foods that are in contaminated soil, probably perhaps a little bit in organic too, because nothing is really perfect. Jewelry, vaccinations, plastics, air, furniture, carpet, prescription drugs, dental work, medical devices, and implants. Just because titanium is an expensive metal or gold is an expensive metal and it's better quality metal, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't release in your body and that your body has to do something like that. Like think about a knee replacement, there's constant motion and pressure and movement on that metal. And so your body has to get rid of that. It tries to get rid of it. So heavy metals are contrasted with essential minerals. Essential minerals are necessary for life. They're used in cellular processes. Deficiency in essential minerals causes disease. And just a few well-known essential minerals, like if you're not familiar with minerals, magnesium, calcium, iron, these are things that we want in our bodies. Heavy metals can be difficult to get rid of. Having a lack of a healthy lifestyle, if you're not moving, if you're not eating well, if you're not in the sunlight, if you're not taking care of your physical body, you know, we're often having these metals continually replenished. If you're continually drinking the same beverages from aluminum cans for your whole life, you know, think of someone who maybe drinks a lot of beer and they're drinking beer from cans and they're drinking 3 or 4 or 5 of those a day. You're getting that every single day into your system, continually being replenished. Our detox pathways are often congested. I see this so often, so often in my practice. The lymph, the bowels, the liver, and the gallbladder. If these pathways aren't working properly, then you're more likely to be contaminated with the heavy metals, just because your body can't get rid of that daily exposure or the long-term exposure in the case of, you know, medical implants, pharmaceuticals, or things like that. So as I mentioned before, my personal journey was that I had a bunch of metal fillings in my mouth when I was a little kid. I worked on getting those removed. And after I'd gotten most of them removed, I was still, I still knew I was being affected, and I still knew that I wasn't able to detoxify well, but I didn't know what to do. So this is one of those things, maybe sounds kind of weird, but I actually meditated on this and prayed for this. And I was asking for something to help me. I didn't want to do chelation. I didn't want to go to the doctor. I didn't want it, but I wanted supplements. So I tried various herbs and other supplements that were supposed to help me with that, but I wasn't really seeing the results I was looking for. Then I came across, just last year, actually, so this has been a long journey for me, I came across zeolite. Zeolite is a natural mineral found in the earth, and it has a honeycomb-like structure. It has a natural negative charge, and it attracts heavy metals that are positively charged into its structure, kind of like this magnet, this ionic exchange that happens. Heavy metals become trapped and locked into the cage, and then it passes out of the body. When I found this, you guys, I was so excited. I'm like, this is it. I just knew, something within me knew that this is something that I was looking for. And so I ordered it and started to take it. The product that I have successfully used is PBX. This is a naturally mined clinoptilolite zeolite. It is granted the GRAS status, means generally recognized as safe. This is a status put out by the government. This particular company, Touchstone, they make PBX. It is from a California Proposition 65 certified mine, meaning the government goes out and checks the mine, and they know that the mine is safe. It's not contaminated by, say, a landfill or sewers nearby or anything like that. Actually, what's coming up out of the ground is clean. This company puts the mineral through a process that bonds it to water molecules. And then based on that, this is able to go anywhere in your body that water can go. So it can cross the blood-brain barrier, go into the lymph, into the blood, into the organs, anywhere that water can go. And encases heavy metals within the structure and safely allows them to be naturally eliminated. It is inert in the body, and it only removes heavy metals and other positively charged toxins. So it does not bond with essential minerals in the body. So it doesn't deplete your magnesium, your calcium, and those minerals that we want in the body. The sister product to PBX is called Pure Body Drops. Now, whereas the PBX is a spray and it can go anywhere in the body, the Pure Body Drops is also the same zeolite from the same mine, but it is a larger molecule size. So it's not been broken down and bonded with water molecularly. It's more like a slurry in a bottle. And this is it's a supplement you take by mouth, but it stays within the digestive tract based on a larger molecule size. It doesn't travel intracellularly. It just stays in the gut. So this is really beneficial for gut parasites, biofilms, and parasites, toxins, things stored specifically in the digestive tract. The protocol for these supplements is 4 sprays 3 times a day and 4 drops 3 times a day. I wanted to share a few of the things that I've received from using these products. My brain fog is pretty much all but gone. I like to say this came into my life at the perfect time because it came into my life right after I opened a wellness center, and I have so many things on my mind every day now, from marketing on social media to, writing back that client, to seeing people in person, to trying to create new content and rewriting old content and all of these things. I work most days 12 hours a day, from the moment I get up and I'm, doing things online and to checking my website at night before I go to bed. If my brain was in the state that it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I could not have done what I'm doing right now. There's no way. I used to need a nap every day in the afternoon. If I didn't get a nap, I was super crabby. I had a lot more mood swings, blood sugar swings. I just had this constant state of fogginess, and I knew something was wrong, especially after all of the things that I've done for my health, all of the exercise that I do and the healthy food that I eat and the supplements that I take and all of these things. I just wasn't quite there. And something in me knew that it was the heavy metals. My thinking is more organized and more clear. I'm also much more motivated to complete tasks that used to feel overwhelming. One thing that I noticed maybe a month or two, probably about 6 weeks after I started taking this, I had this sudden desire to organize cabinets. And it's just one of those funny things, like you would see it, I know that I need to do it, I have to do it, but I would put it off and it just felt overwhelming. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, not only do I want to do it, I can. I have the mental and the physical energy to do this. I'm buying containers and making everything look pretty and neat and tidy how I really want it. And I know that's because my insides were more organized. And then I was able to begin to reflect that into my external reality. I'm feeling calmer, more connected spiritually as well. Fluoride will calcify the pineal gland, which is known as our spiritual connection, our inner vision. So I have noticed a greater connection with my spirituality since I've been using this as well. I was heavily exposed to fluoride. Also, I grew up on a farm, lots of chemicals. My whole life, I've been around lots of chemicals. I'm having much deeper sleep, more vivid dreams, easier meditation, deeper meditation. I have passed parasites. My digestion has improved. My eye floaters are fading. Yeah, eye floaters. Yeah, we have a live member here whose eye floaters are gone. Yeah, that's awesome.
Big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And my hair loss that I was experiencing at that time has stopped as well and regrown. I'm doing other things for that as well, but I know that this was a part of that. Other people have also experienced children with delayed speech, rapidly adding words. Poor vision is restored. My son actually, we had to go get him a new prescription because it was too strong. We had to get him a lower prescription, which was expensive, but it was okay. I was happy to do it. Rashes and skin conditions disappearing. I have a few clients who are using this topically on rashes, and it's clearing the rash up that has been plaguing them for years and years and years. Just a couple of weeks on the spraying, and it's disappearing. Neuropathy improves, blood sugar is balancing, eye color brightened or restored. I have someone that I'm very close with whose eyes changed color in adulthood and was developing flecks and spots in the eye after using this only orally, not even sprayed in the eyes, which you can also do, by the way. The eyes are returning. They're going from gray back to blue, which is what they were when the person was young. I mean, I have pictures to prove it as well, which I should have put in the slides, but I didn't need to do that. It's mind blowing. Seasonal allergies can be reduced by detoxifying heavy metals. And then, as I mentioned about the hair, less hair loss, thicker hair. Also considering a parasite protocol is an option. So detoxifying heavy metals can have a certain effect on parasites, weaken the parasites. Sometimes it's all people need, especially children who have been exposed to heavy metals. Simply doing a heavy metal detox can be enough for them. If you have parasites, if you eat a lot of sushi, if you tend to eat raw meat or you have eaten raw meat, if you have a lot of contact with animals, whether wild animals or even pets, it might be a good idea to do a parasite protocol. Our ancestors did them, the Amish still do them. Why do we deworm our animals, but we don't deworm ourselves? It's an interesting thought, right? Why are we told that humans don't get these? We get them. We all get them. We all have them. It is natural and normal to a certain extent to have parasites. It's not natural and normal to have them running our lives, to be overrun with them. Heavy metal toxicity contributes to this. There's just this really close relationship between parasites and heavy metals. But the problems do occur when the parasites get out of control. So like I said, it's a natural part of life. We experience parasites, but if, your body elimination systems aren't working well, you're not able to get rid of those parasites, then they will start to build up and imbalances will start to happen. Personally, I do a parasite protocol several times a year. Sometimes just around the full moon, I'll just do a little homeopathic parasite cleanse. I'm in the middle of the strongest one. I know if you know, we've talked about it. The strongest one I've ever done in my life right now, I'm in month 2. It's a 5-month protocol, and it's very thorough. It's a very thorough program. It takes you through month by month with different, gradually increasing the strength of the herbs and the binders and the things that you're doing. So far I'm doing really good. And I thought I was doing good already, but I'm doing really well on this. It's not been super easy, but it's not been too bad. Homeopathic methods of parasite cleanses also work. They're more gentle. They do take a bit longer, whereas the herbs can get it done pretty fast in a few weeks. Homeopathic methods are more gentle, but they take quite a bit longer to go. You're going to have to do that for usually your first time, at least a few months, sometimes even 6 months to a year it can take for some people. This is a better method for children unless you have a child that's really suffering. I generally recommend heavy metal detox and a homeopathic parasite cleanse. It's just easier to administer and it's just more gentle. The herbal protocols are more powerful, and they also can help to detox molds and viruses, retroviruses as well. And that's it, which is good because I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. So I'm going to open up questions for online first. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. And I see there's a couple in the chat here. So I'm going to answer these first, and then we'll get to anybody else that's live. I have several fillings. What should I do to them? Remove and replace with what? I recommend definitely removing them. Finding a biologic dentist is the number one step. So before you do anything, find a biologic dentist, and what they will do is replace them with different dentists use different materials, generally ceramic or composite is what they tend to use. The dentist that I recently found, he says that ceramic is better. It's more natural and more safe. So some dentists can also muscle test or reflex test you for the filling material that works best with your biology. So that's an option as well. But basically, even if it's a plastic, which I'm not a fan of having plastic in my body either, but I would still rather have plastic than the metal and the mercury. It's still going to be better as far as the amount and the way that it leaches into your body. And will this soon be saved so I can watch later? Yes, I'm recording the class, and everyone who signed up will get a copy of the recording. Is there anybody else on live that would like to unmute themselves and ask a question? Okay, anybody here in person have any questions? Yeah. The question was, how can I find healthy products? She was at Whole Foods and everything was in an aluminum can. For me, I try to just find balance in that. So do I eat things in cans? Sometimes, yes. Do I eat coconut milk from a can or drink it every day? No. So number one, if you're detoxing all the time, then you're not adding to an already heavy metal toxic base. Hopefully you're already getting rid of that. So I look at it as, well, which is worse? You could make your own coconut milk from coconuts and use Vitamix. I mean, that's an option. There's also part of that is what I do is I help direct people towards companies and products that are really good. There's a company called Wildly Organic. I have links to their products in my emails. They have a product that is a coconut cream base that's in a glass jar. It's not the same as coconut milk, but you could mix it with water in theory, like in a Vitamix or a high-powered blender, and get that same kind of flavor and consistency. So that might be an option for you. Wildly Organic. Anybody else? Or and in general, like, how do you find the healthy stuff? I mean, just do your best. I mean, nothing's perfect, you know. Things are getting easier with time. I will say that for sure. When I was first looking for these foods when I moved here 15 years ago, you could only find things in Ann Arbor, but we have better options here now, just even locally. So I try to look at the glass half full, you know, in that perspective that we're getting better and people are waking up more and there's more and more things available. But also you have to be careful not to just try to be perfect with everything either, because nothing is perfect. You're doing your best. You're making the best choices that you can. If you want some coconut milk and you can only find it in a can, right? Take your PBX after that. Any other questions?
Well, I've been, Elizabeth, but I was very upset over the COVID. And I still wear a mask when I'm with a group of people that I don't know, but since I've done it, seriously, talking about floaters, oh, I got macular degeneration. Floaters are like, I do the detox for spraying the tox. Wow. I cut out as much processed foods that I can. Because I like mayonnaise. And I make my own butter. Now I have control over soy sauce. I'm tired. So I'm working at getting off of my because I feel like I'm walking too. So I'm being better with it now. But my biggest thing is removing the anxiety of the food. And I was before, but seriously, I think they're like these cobwebs are pretty much gone, but I still wear a mask when yeah, I tried, I lost a few times. And I have this mask is going to make my rosacea. My rosacea is almost to an end, and I get rosacea from here to here. And I get a little bit nervous talking, but that's coming to an end. It's less and less. But I'm not that's the one. From red to white. And every can, every bottle, every container that I pick up. And I'm not here just because I'm just saying.
I paid her like so much money to say all this.
It's just,
I'll give you your check after class.
okay, but it really does, detoxifying, getting the metals out. Of course, memorization. Why? Not too bad, not too bad. She knows I'm getting a little. But it's better. I feel better. Guys. I don't look down here when it's not raining. But it's serious. It really resets your brain. So, am I afraid to be around you? No. Oh, come on. But I like this because it brought back things that I'm supposed to be thinking of all the time. It's like a reminder for me. Will I do this class again? Why not? Will I do the because I didn't have that.
Thank you.
Listen to the words.
Thanks,
listen to the
Glenn.
law. It's good for you. It's not going to hurt you. This is a good reminder for me.
Thank you.
And it's just got the best water And best of luck.
So in case those of you couldn't hear, I just had a really nice little testimonial from one of my clients here in person, Lynn, who said that she's feeling better. Her rosacea's cleared up. Her eye floaters are gone. She has a lot less anxiety. Eye floaters, rosacea, anxiety. Those were the main points. Yeah. Yeah.
It's come down to, I mean,
Mhm.
I can deal.
Yeah. Yeah. More manageable. Thank you.
It's more manageable.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's not so much with what's going on. It was on Facebook about
Mm-hmm.
why don't you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of
Okay, so the questions are, why are Bath and Body Works candles bad, and what kind of toothpaste do I use? Bath and Body Works candles are bad because there are artificial fragrance oils in those candles that are made from petrochemicals. There's nothing natural about those candles. Even if they're called eucalyptus or something, it's not actual eucalyptus oil from a plant. It's a conglomeration of chemicals that is created to smell something like eucalyptus. And these are bad because they're essentially chemical toxins. Then you're burning them into the air in your home. They contribute to indoor air pollution. And where do they go? You're breathing them in. You smell that fragrance. It's going into your nose. It's going into your sinuses. It's going into your lungs. And then your body has to do something with that, right? It has to get rid of that because it's not meant to be in our physical structure, right? So contrast that with, say, essential oils, which are from plants. It's natural. Now, are they safe? It depends. It's medicine, but they are a plant oil versus a chemical conglomeration of artificial fragrances. Does that make sense?
You would recommend or are there
Beeswax candles are safe as long as there's lead-free wicks, which is another thing. Most of those commercial candles, your Yankee candles and your Bath and Body Works candles have wicks with lead in them. So lead is a heavy metal, right? We don't want that in our bodies, in our air. We don't want to breathe that in. When you see the staining on your wall, sometimes if you put a candle too close to the wall, that's the heavy metal that you're releasing into the air that was just managed to make it onto the wall instead of into your lungs. A beeswax candle, just like a natural beeswax candle. Those are safe. I have some here. I use them kind of in my ceremonies and things. These I just got on Amazon. But if you really like candles, these are just little ones. But you can buy big tapers. You can find those rolled kinds that look like honeycomb or like kind of rolled up, or votives or whatever kind of candles you like. So you want to look for natural cotton wick with no lead. One way to tell if there's lead in the wick in a candle is if you bend the wick and it stays bent and you see that little metal thing in there, if it's like firm, then there's metal and lead in that wick. You don't want that. So this wick I can look and see. It's just wax. It's very flexible and soft, and it doesn't break off because it's cotton, you know, so a metal one would break, and you can see that little metal filament in there. Sometimes I will burn a soy candle that is fragranced with essential oils. You can find those too. So beeswax candles actually purify the air, so they leave the air better than you found it. Soy candles, I consider them kind of like neutral, like they're not really necessarily purifying the air, but if I just want that feeling of a candle or whatever, as long as it's scented only with essential oils, I will occasionally burn those in my house. And then toothpaste. Toothpaste, I use a lot of different brands. I just make sure that it's fluoride free. Right now I'm using Dr. Bronner's toothpaste, which they have it at Whole Foods. You can get it on Amazon. I know they have the soap actually at Target, but I don't know that I've seen the toothpaste there. But look for something that's fluoride free. There's a lot of different issues depending on your point of view with toothpaste. It's kind of a big subject. Do you want xylitol in there or not? I mean, there's a lot of questions, but generally if you're just looking for something like a basic quick switch, something that's easy to find, just look for something that's fluoride free. Even Tom's, I mean, it was bought by a big company, so I don't really like that company anymore, but if that's all that you have access to, you know, that's better. Yeah, you just have to kind of get used to, it's not the same. One of the reasons that you like, probably what people like about toothpaste, it's hard to get over, is that bubbly, really foamy feeling. That's SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, which is not really good for you. And it's a tissue irritant. And it's what you also find in shampoo that makes it really foamy. So we want to avoid those chemicals if we can, especially in your mouth and your gums. You're like, brushing your gums and, making micro tears in your tissue and then adding SLS in there. So it's not the same. I'll just say you're not going to find a natural toothpaste. Another option is a tooth powder. I do find tooth powders can almost have a little bit of a more clean feel because there's no oil in there. Earthly makes a good one that has charcoal in it. That's good for whitening. That's in my emails. I send out links to that with my emails. Yeah. Do you know?
Charcoal is, it's what cleans your gums,
Mhm. Do you know what it does for me is it makes me clean my sink more often, which is probably a good thing. I keep my scrub brush right there and I just have to clean it out every time. But yeah. There are. Mhm. One of our guests said that the fluoride leaches the calcium, causes the calcium to leach out of the bones, which is another really good point. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Comment about our
Mhm.
what my comment is on. Well, then, he has,
Mhm.
since we talked in. I don't know if it's that or probiotics right now. Or whatever.
But whatever, it doesn't matter almost, right? It's working and he's feeling better.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. All right, well, I'm going to sign off from the class now. Thank you, everybody who showed up online. Just make sure there's no more questions typed in the chat here. I think we're all set. So thank you, everybody who joined me live. I'm going to end the class now. You can always email me if you have any other recordings. Thanks. Bye. Bye, everybody.